So I just got back from Napoli, and this is my honest breakdown of what I think about the city. I'll be breaking down like the things that I experienced, the things that I did, what my first impressions were, and hopefully it helps you as you make plans to visit Naples sometime in the future. So, first of all, my first impressions. When I landed in Naples, I had this insanely chaotic expectation because I've watched multiple YouTube videos before going, and people are like, "Be careful, it's a bit chaotic and stuff." But I guess being born and raised in Nigeria and experiencing life in Lagos, I just thought, oh, it wasn't that crazy. I mean, it's rough around the edges, and I will get to that part in the video. But my first impression wasn't crazy. My first impression is real people living their real lives, driving to go where they need to be. I also felt a lot of warmth from like the taxi driver that picked me up to the accommodation to checking in. There was a lot of warmth. I didn't feel any type of way. I have never felt as welcome as I felt in Naples. I was walking into artisan shops and they were like running me through stories about the things that they were selling about their city and giving me recommendations for places to go. There was just a lot of warmth. I've never felt that way in any other city in the world before. Now, to the second thing, the food. So, before I got to Naples, I had done like my personal research and I had the whole list of restaurants that I wanted to go to for sure. But because usually when I'm on vacation, I don't think about food until I'm really starving. I basically just ended up walking into like any random place that I see. When I'm hungry, I just like I look at it and if it vibes with my spirit, I go in. But I did make a point to, go to Pizzeria Brandy because it's the birthplace of the margarita and the margarita is my favorite pizza. So I went there and I had the pizza with this beautiful live music that was playing while I was there. Honestly, genuinely, it was the best pizza I've ever had. So it's not just a hype, it's a really, really, really good place for pizza, like the best. That was really like the only place in the list that I went to. But don't be afraid because even though I went to like, I was just going into restaurants to eat whenever I felt hungry and was not really going with my list anymore. I never had bad food in Naples. Every single thing I had there was amazing. The cocktails were amazing, the drinks were amazing, the food was amazing. So don't be worried. You cannot have bad food in Naples. So the next stop is attractions. So I did Castle Nuevo. I did the Monastery of Santa Chiara. I did Piazza Plebiscito. I did the palace. I researched the things that I personally want to see. I love history. I love architecture. So going into like historical buildings really, really is a great highlight for me. So I tried to do them as much. I also did Galleria Umberto where I had dinner as well. And I would recommend that you do that because it's a really beautiful, place. And then I went to Castel dell'Ovo, but it was closed for like some work that they were doing. So I didn't get to go inside. But I did go there during sunset and I got to see like the most beautiful sunset. But if I'm to like place my experience in Naples and like the things I really, really love doing the most, it would be the underground experience. And I booked three different underground experiences, which I'm probably going to just put in the description. And it was amazing going underground. It felt like I was going into a different city, like a whole network of life happening underground. And I think it's one of those things where you have to experience it to really understand it. I ended up coming out of like this underground experiences thinking, oh my God, what is going on in Naples? There's like a whole world undergrounded. I think because Naples is a heavily colonized city, it has been occupied by so many different empires in the past. It's been colonized by the Romans, the Normans, the Bourbons, the French, Austrians, Spanish, the Greeks. It's been heavily, heavily, heavily occupied in the past. So there's like layers and layers and layers of this different history that have just been built over time, and I've left the underground experience feeling like if we strip off the top layer of Naples, we would see an entirely different city on the ground, like a whole city on the ground. And that just made me feel like blown away. So, yeah, that for me was such a highlight. I also got to go to Porgato de Arco. I think I'm honestly not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but it's basically this place where Napolitans pray for the souls in purgatory in exchange for protection and blessings from their souls. You would see some actual skulls and like burials of actual people in there. And the experience was very chilling. I'm Catholic, so it was something that I really wanted to do. And you could do it as well if that's something that you're interested in. Then there was the monastery of Santa Chiara, which has a beautiful garden that I loved walking through. Like it has this beautiful garden and like there's like some mosaics, there's some frescoes. It was an experience. There wasn't that many people when I went, which was also during evening time. I went during sunset just because I think everything's better at sunset. And it was just beautiful. There were very few people. Sometimes I got a whole column to myself. And yeah, I think you should definitely go. And then there is the boss of all bosses, which is the National Archaeological Museum of Naples. I didn't get to go, but that's only because I didn't have the time. It was on my itinerary, but I wanted to experience it after I had seen Herculaneum and Pompeii, but then I didn't have the time to go, and I decided, you know what, I would just come back to Napoli and do it next time. But I didn't get to go. But after just doing my research and understanding what the collection is in this museum, I would say do not miss it. If you have the time, slot it in. If you think you may not be able to do it at a later time, probably don't be like me and just do it anyway. Just do it first and it'll be fine. You would still enjoy the experience. But I think it's always better to go to an archaeological museum like this, especially one with Pompeii and Herculaneum providing context for you to see the actual cities of Pompeii, Herculaneum before going to the museum, because then when you're seeing things in the museum, your brain can create context for them based on what you've seen. So I would still recommend doing it after you see Pompeii and Herculaneum, which was my plan, but I never got to do it. So yeah, so this is pretty much it for like attractions. However, another thing that I would recommend doing a lot when you're in Naples is walking. I mean, I did lots and lots of walking. There was like this Canapoli streets, and then there was Via Toledo, and so many other streets, right, that were just beautiful to walk in. It was an experience walking these streets because in one hand you walk through a street, it's an old city street, but then you walk further and you're like in this almost ghetto-ish feeling place. And I know it can feel unsettling for most people, but it didn't feel unsettling for me. It felt like real life, like experiencing real life in a city that is so historically, layered. So this is what I expected it to look like. It gave me all the feels really that I expected from a very old historical layered city. I found the streets as well where they had like an open book market. Like there was just a bunch of books. Like it was like walking through a book, an open library, which was very exciting for me. I love books, and seeing books like that just made me so happy. I was going to buy a few, but they were in Italian. So I didn't get to buy, but it was still beautiful just to walk through this book market and explore. Another thing that walking the streets would do is that you get to see the street shops and artisan shops. So like in Nigeria, we have this thing where many people sell stuff on the roadside in a wheelbarrow. And I had the same vibe and the same feeling in Naples where people were selling like trinkets and lots of stuffs in their wheelbarrow, a Napolitan version of a wheelbarrow. It reminded me of home and where I'm from. And you would also get to like walk into this tiny little street that you would never be able to see or experience if you're not walking. Finally, just talk to the people as much as you can. When you're having dinner, when you're in a restaurant and someone is nice to you, be nice to them back and talk to them. Because I got to learn lots of things from the people that I was talking to, like did you know that Naples has the oldest public university in the world that's still like continuously in use? I didn't know this. I also didn't know that concrete was born in Naples. And also, Napolitans don't like being called Italians. So you might want to not call them Italians and you just want to stick to calling them Napolitans because they have a soft spot for that. And it's always great to respect the people and what their preference is. Also, before Naples was Naples, it was Neapolis, and before it was Neapolis, it was Peleopolis, and before it was Peleopolis, it was Parthenope. So yeah, that's how old Naples is. There are over 400 churches in Naples, the city with one of the largest number of churches in all of Europe. Then, of course, you cannot go to Naples without, seeing the big ass Mount Vesuvius that dominates the skyline. And this is an active volcano. Obviously, it hasn't erupted in a very, very long time, but it does make you feel something when you see that there's a dangerous active volcano just shadowing the city. If you're considering doing a day trip to Pompeii and Herculaneum, you already know that you have to do it. Like there is no question about should I do it or not do it. It would not be a disappointing experience for you at all. Obviously, book a guided tour so that you actually know what you're doing. I book all my tours from Get Your Guide, so I might just link them in the link below just to help you figure out which one to book. In summary, my experience in Naples was one of the best experiences I've ever had, if not the best. And it really comes down to the people, the city itself, and all of the amazing experiences that I had, exploring the underground, exploring the different layers in the city. And I just felt like home. I woke up every morning and I actually knew my neighbors. I was saying hello to my neighbors in the morning and evening. There was this little coffee shop right beside my Airbnb, and I would go in the morning and have my €4 breakfast, which was like hot chocolate and I don't know, something. Even though I was only in Naples for 4 days, it really, really got me in my feelings to live because it was like saying goodbye to my neighbors and feeling like these are people I had known for a long time, for longer than 4 days. That's how it felt for me. So if you're thinking about coming to Naples, definitely do it. If you're worried that it's rough around the edges, I would say you shouldn't be worried. You can educate yourself to understand like what the vibe is like, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. I never felt unsafe. I never felt any type of way. I felt super, super, super welcome. Yes, you need to be careful when you're crossing the road because I mean, yeah, it's part of the Napolitan experience. So I learned from the locals to just start walking. And once you start walking, the cars will stop for you. But obviously, don't start walking too close or when a car is coming at high speed. You just have to figure it out. But I'm sure you'll be fine.